welcome to my very first video. Um, I hope you enjoy what I make. I'm just doing a mixed media painting today. I wanted to test out filming a video and hopefully you enjoy it. It might be a bit choppy in places. Hopefully it's not too bad. And the video's sped up just by 2 times so that it isn't an hour long. I'm hoping to try and do different angles and stuff in the future, and hopefully that'll look a bit nicer. So I'm just doing some light watercolour layers here. I just wanted to keep it loose. I've been thinking lately about the way that I paint, and sometimes I really just don't enjoy it and I want to just scribble on the page and be really loose with how I'm working and just have fun, and I feel like I haven't been able to do that so much recently. It feels like a lot of what I'm making is very precise and exactly the idea in my head, so I thought it'd be nice to try and practice doing something really fluid and hopefully wobbly, I suppose, in a good way. Yeah, so I used just a really basic reference just as a rough guide, but ended up looking completely different, so that was good. That's kind of what I wanted. It was an orange meadow, and I decided to go for more green, and you'll see later on I had some extra bits and bobs too. So yeah, I'm just adding in a bit more yellow here. Can't remember why I did that. I guess just for some nice fun extra colour. But yeah, I wanted this really strong base of lots of different greens and blues, keeping them all sort of close on the colour palette rather than going straight in for an orange and straight in with a blue. I didn't want to make this really muddy, and I wanted to just keep it really wet so that all the colours didn't perfectly blend in with one another. They just, I don't know, looked extra funky, I suppose. Oh, here, this is where I start adding some of where the flowers are going to go, right at the front. That was also something I wanted to change a little bit. There's flowers all over this reference I was using, and I just wanted some at the front and a couple dotted around near the back. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll roughly add in some things at the bottom just to give the idea of where these flowers are roughly gonna go, so that then when I add more stuff later on, I know where they're going. But also underneath, it gives a bit more depth, hopefully. So speaking a little bit more about what I've wanted to do recently, I think it's really good sometimes to just do stuff with no plans. I think it's really important, as much as it's important to get stuff wrong sometimes. I fully went into this painting with the chance that maybe this won't turn out how I thought, and there's some things that I would probably change about it, and that's okay. And I think because I just had fun, I really ended up enjoying the whole process of this, which is something I've not felt in a little while. With some of the other paintings that I do, there's very precise stages. There's sketching it all out and coming up with the idea, making sure all the line work looks good, and then once I've done all that digitally and got it perfect and ready to go, I then trace over it with pencil and then go straight in with line work and then do all that. That's very technical, so it's a lot of repeating and going over stuff, and that, although I do love drawing, sometimes that process can get a little bit boring and repetitive. And then once I've done that, I finally get to the part that I really enjoy, which is the colouring. So I think with this process, I just kind of went straight in, and that's really nice because I immediately get to the part that I really enjoy, and that felt great because if it went wrong, I kind of had a free pass, sort of. Whereas with my other illustrations, I have to worry a lot more because if it goes wrong, oh gosh, I've spent 2 hours doing all the things that go before it. So it can feel really daunting sometimes going into art, and I don't want to feel like that all the time. Sometimes I do want to spend hours pouring my heart into something and, have it look really great at the end and really focus on loads of different things, and that's great, but doing that all the time can get a bit exhausting. So I think it's really important that not only me, but everyone who does painting, sometimes it's good to take a bit of time for yourself and just do something that doesn't matter. And that's how I went into this, and I really, really like how it looks at the end, which you'll see in 15 minutes time, hopefully. But yeah, so you can see I'm just adding some darker colours now. I've gone from light to dark. Very good thing to do with watercolour. Can't really do it in reverse. It's a bit hard. But I'm just blobbing loads and loads of stuff on, again keeping it really, really loose. I think I would really encourage, if you're watching, maybe do something similar right now, or do some doodles or something really loose and fun, and it doesn't matter if you're worried about ruining a sketchbook or something like that, or ruining paper. Just do it with pencil on like very, very simple printer paper, and then you don't have to worry so much if it goes wrong. You can throw it in the bin if you want. But it's important to get all the bad ideas and bad paintings out, because then there's room for good ones. Not that this one here I'm working on is bad, but it had the potential to be bad or good, and I like that. Whereas normally I feel like things have the potential to still be bad, but I'm focusing so hard that it becomes like work sometimes. So it almost has to be good, therefore it ends up being good, and I'd get a lot less happy accidents. On this, you can see now, I went a bit dark with this blue, and I really wasn't sure about it when I was doing it. It's sped up so you can't see me hesitating, or maybe you can there, but I really wasn't sure about that blue. So I try and add a bit of yellow here to fix it, which kind of helped, I suppose, but I did lose quite a lot of the white of the paper, which is a shame because I would have liked more of that. But the blue, when it dries, it actually looks really nice, and it creates a really nice shadow, and maybe it's some kind of blue flower in the background. So I think it worked out, and you don't really tend to get much of that if you have planned out every aspect of the painting already. Well, I'm doing the sky here. I wasn't really sure what to do. The sky was just blue on the image, and I wanted some clouds. I'm trying to go for a very European or British field, something that makes me feel warm and cozy. So that's all the watercolour done, all the background. There was a little skip there, just took forever to dry, so I went and had a cup of tea, which was actually bad because my milk was mouldy, and I didn't really taste it at first, but yeah, it wasn't right, so I stopped drinking that, and then I went on to the gouache. I was going to use Posca pens, right, but I only have 3 colours, so that didn't really work. So I decided to just use gouache and wait for everything to completely dry, and then it was all right. But I think it's looking okay here. Some of it still wasn't dry, so I do go over quite a few of these blobs because some of them, they're just they're not opaque enough. I think sometimes that's the problem with a cheaper gouache as well. I really like this Arteza gouache. It's really great because there's 60 colours, and since I don't tend to do like full paintings with gouache very often, it's great to have a ton of choice rather than having to mix up such a small amount. So this is very good, and it's not too bad having to go over them every now and again. So there's a bit of randomness to what I'm doing here, but the reference I used had a bit of a guide for the flowers right at the front, so I kind of roughly went with that, but I brought them up just a little bit more because I wasn't putting quite so many in the background, and I wanted to make it feel like you're quite high up and maybe you're looking down at this valley that then goes back up in the background. So I did quite a lot, and then I did something that I ended up regretting. You can kind of see here. I try and curve them a little bit to make a more fun rounded composition, but I think it ended up looking a bit strange with the hills. By the time it's done, it looks okay, and I kind of fixed it by adding them a bit taller in the middle, which I like, but I do wish I hadn't gone quite so much up the sides. It's okay, again. This is why this painting is nice and fun, because it's full of little things that I've learned, so that then if I do another one of these, I can then not do that next time. Pro tip. Oh, so I'm just adding some more. I decided to add some little tiny ones in the background. Again, I wasn't sure about this, but I fixed it later on to a point where I'm happy with it. Sometimes you just have to keep working with a painting until it sort of just looks alright. It can look really not great sometimes. I'm sure you've heard of the ugly stage of a painting. It's kind of, it drifts in and out of that. I think sometimes it looks really pretty, and then every now and again I do a bit and I'm like, oh no, that looks not great. And that is kind of how I think those little bits of cliff look. It kind of looks like a pollen. It looks really pollen-y. I don't know how else to describe it. So I'm going in with a darker colour now. Started off with the yellow light and then adding some orange on top. Sort of like extra flowers, but also as a shadowy area of the flowers that are currently there, I suppose. And this is nice. The orange I used, though, I wish it was a bit darker. When it dries, it's quite light and it's not as much contrast as I needed, really. So I do go in with another colour after this, which is orange, but it's a very red orange. And that really helped. So originally I was going to keep the whole thing just orange and yellow, but as you can see now, like, it looks fine, don't get me wrong, but oh look, here's the red. But I just wanted something a little bit more poppy and fun and bright, so that it had that contrast more from the background. You could tell more that those were flowers up close rather than being more blended in. Also decided to only use one brush for this one, which kind of doesn't work for what I'm doing now. This is also something I ended up not liking, but fixed later on. The brush I was using was quite big, which I wanted to use on purpose because I usually use pretty tiny brushes, and although this one's still pretty small, this is quite a big brush for me. So I thought, oh, that'll help keep things loose. I can't be as exact with it because the brush is not tiny, so that helped. But then when I did want to do something quite small, all those little flecks to sort of act as weird little flowers, I think they looked a bit strange and blobby. They almost looked too big. So I go over it now with quite a muddy colour. I mixed a blue and orange for some reason. I don't know really what I was thinking here, but I think it helped. I think it made like a weird little shadow, which is good. I had way too much of it here though, which is a shame because I think I painted over a bit too much of that blue, but when it dries it looks okay, I think. Oh, and then I've got some white here. I'm about to add something very cute, I think. Nope, not yet, soon though. On the edge of your seat now, you're going to find out what it is, even though you probably would have seen it in the thumbnail, but that's okay. So I think I'm going to add some extra little circles to the flowers, make them pop a little bit more, so that background is a bit more blurred and further away. So I've made like a very, very, very light orange to get some lightness on these flowers, so they're really coming out a little bit more now, which I really like. quite like this Winter and Newton gouache. It's the only one that I buy that's more of an expensive one. So I get through quite a lot of white. I think because I just add it to so many colours. I quite like pastel tones, and because I like to use it as a fun highlight colour on other paintings. And it's really good, the Winsor & Newton one. I haven't tried their other colours yet, but maybe I should. But I don't know, I have the huge set of Arteza ones, so it always feels silly buying more gouache when I've already got 60 colours. Maybe I'll invest in some eventually. I really want to try, I can't remember what the brand's called now, but they're the acrylic gouache. It's like a acrylic gouache mix. I'm desperate to try those. They look so good and fun to use, but they're very hard to find in the UK, and when I do find them, they're quite expensive. Oh, here we go. Here's the sheep. Little sheepies. Thought I'd put them sort of an odd amount in random places. I didn't want to put them too far back because they'd need to be much smaller. But I went for 5. I originally was just going to keep them only on the right hand side, but I don't know, it looked a bit unbalanced, so I just went for 2 on the other side. I think they look quite cute. Kept them simple, just little fluffy babies. Oh, and then I'm testing out some colour pencils. Could not remember what they were called then for some reason. I think I'm mostly done with painting at this part. I believe I do go in with some extra stuff right at the end, but yeah, more texture now, more materials, mixed media fun. This is also something I wanted to do more of recently. I really love texture in paintings. That's why I love watercolour so much, because you get that texture from the cold pressed paper. But something recently that I've realised is that although I like more of a smooth watercolour sometimes, I do miss texture because it's really fun to make. And while I've been at university recently, it's something that I've been experimenting more with. So I went a bit crazy with this. You'll see in a minute, and I just start scribbling, and it's great and it's fun. And it's nice to scribble and not worry. Like, here we go. What am I doing here? But it looks great. I think I kept it sort of in the direction of the hill mostly, so that it didn't look too random. But I think it really helped, and it brought out that blue that I ended up covering. Oh, tiny sheep faces. I also kept those pretty simple because they're small, so I gave them little tiny faces and little tiny feet. I do add tails as well, which I think I regret because I think they look quite nice here, and then I add these tails and I feel like it looks like an extra foot, because I realised that I think some sheep have white tails and some of them have black ones. It's such a small detail though that I don't know why I'm worried about it. Oh, I've gone in with this is a lime green coloured pencil, and it doesn't quite show up so much on camera, but it's almost neon. Oh, got paint on me, gross. And it's really nice because it shows up, but it's not as stark as white, so it looks really nice, very tasty. Oh, okay, and here's the final bit I think I'm adding to the flowers. Oh, and fixing that bit that I accidentally got on my hand. Good times. Bit more white to the sheep. And then, oh, so I did this, right? I thought, I could do with a bit more white in the sky, more of a bright white. And I started adding it, and I kind of hated it. I thought, I should have just left it. There was no problem with it. But luckily, because it was quite a thin layer, it just fades, and you end up not really seeing it. So that was very lucky. And then I added a bit of white to the field, just to brighten it up a little bit more. Nice bit of shine. I thought as well it'd be a good indication of flowers. Here's another mistake. I did cut out when I rubbed this out with the eraser, because these directional lines that I made, the shadows under the sheep are okay, but I made those directional lines with that blue coloured pencil, and I really didn't like it. They were in completely different directions. So yeah, I rubbed it out. That's gone now. But I didn't include it in the video because it made the camera shake, and by the time I'd sped it up, it made me feel dizzy, so I cut that out. But I I erased it, and it blended out some of the other colour pencils, so yeah, that worked. That was fine. But I do wish I hadn't added it because you can still see some of it and I don't like it. A bit more white on these flowers now, just to make them pop out like the sheep. Look extra sparkly. I also just kept this pretty random, mostly evenly spaced out with a couple closer together so that it's like a good random, not precise random, if that makes sense. I think this is the pretty much the last thing I do. I also realised that I didn't do my signature or leave room for it, because usually I'm working with line work, so it's already there. And I thought, oh damn, how am I gonna do this now? So I end up painstakingly doing it with the white gouache, which is fine, but it's quite a small signature, and I'm lucky that I don't write my name in like italics or anything for the signature. It's just a square with a peach in it. But oh, it was still pretty difficult. Mostly getting the square to look fine. It's a bit thin, but that's okay. But finishing touches, and then you'll get to see the tape peel, which is very exciting. It's a very nice clean tape peel. It's very satisfying. But I think overall I was really happy with this painting. I think it looks pretty good and it made me happy, and it was fun to not really think about it too much. So I thought it'd be great for a video, and I think it has been. But I hope you enjoyed watching. I'd love some feedback. Nothing mean though, please. I'm trying. Here's some close-ups. Very nice. Ooh, yummy texture. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm hoping to make some more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.